And spinning, boom. According to that, I am live. Welcome. My name is Yuko Simon. This is Tokyo Tonight. It's 10:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time. Unusually, I just set up smoothly today, and I'm here. It's working. I've just noticed the shiny frame around the video that I normally have isn't there. I don't know what happened to that. I should go looking for that later on. But yeah, other than that, I'm on time. So yeah, it's been an interesting week. How's the butter stocks this week? Butter stocks are good. Thanks to the Duncan. Can I say that? Thanks. I think that's right. He uses his handle name. So thanks to the Duncans, I now have a permanent supply of butter here. I've been eating butter throughout the week and enjoying that. Actually, I got to talk at length about the history of my butter fixation with the Deep in Japan podcast earlier this week, and that podcast actually came out today, which I've linked from my Twitter, which I'll show you later. But yeah, we actually had a great chat about all of that, and it turns out that Jeff, I think it's Jeff, who was interviewing, is a big New Zealand West Gold butter fan. So I appreciated that, actually, because I just have Japanese butter most of the time. So yeah, anyway, great to see so many people rocking into the chat. I did get some feedback last week that apparently if I set up the show like less than 15 minutes before, people don't get the notification that the show is about to start. So the fact that I set up more than 15 minutes before last week, like about an hour before, helped a lot of people find out that it was on. And of course, just the fact that I'm here all the time anyway. So I made a point of making sure that I was set up this week. And honestly, actually just going through Twitter on my phone like this does just make it a lot easier. So, curating the Flipboard was something that I enjoyed doing every week, but it was a bit of a chore. It took about an hour. Whereas now not having to do that, honestly, just makes it a little bit easier. So, yeah. I still call it Twitter because X just sounds lame. I can't come around to that, but yeah, anyway, this is it makes it easier to do the show, and it still is just as enjoyable, and it's great to see so many people rocking in as we already have. You might notice I did just try out. In fact, I think it's cut off at the top of the chat. But Dan H had the very first comment asking, is the new banner preview based on AI art? And yes, it is. I went and actually I used Midjourney. I like playing around with Midjourney, and so I thought, well, if I put in the title of today's show as a prompt, what will it give me? And it gave me 4 pictures, and I thought that one looked kind of cool. I agree with Dan H. It looks a little bit more like a Hong Kong vibe than a Tokyo vibe. But I thought it looked cool, and I thought it's something I could maybe play. It's something to inspire me, perhaps, to play around with the Midjourney prompts. And I don't know. Do you prefer the comfort and familiarity of having the same thumbnail every week? I mean, there is a merit to that. Or do you like the idea of me using the subject matter of each show as a basis for playing around with AI art? And putting in something new each week. I don't know. I thought that might be fun, but I'll throw it out to the masses what you prefer. In fact, let me know in the comments, actually, if you have a preference on having the regular thumbnail or a different but regular thumbnail, or having some variation with it. It's something, I don't know, I think is fun. Andrea Mulboy, also, I know it's late for you, so great to have you in here. Also, just congrats to Australia, New Zealand as well, but really, I mean, Australia did most of the hosting of the Women's World Cup. And of course, congratulations to the Spanish team on winning the Women's World Cup. I mean, it's been an amazingly successful tournament there, just with huge sold-out stadiums and everything. The way that both countries got really behind it, partly, of course, helped by the success of the Australian team. Commiserations for UK, for England. 2 different things, actually. So England, commiserations to England. On losing in the final. I wasn't actually able to watch it. It was on BS1 in Japan, but I was following the text updates on BBC. But yeah, just great to see women's sports, having such a successful event. Good for the sport, I think good for the society. So yeah, congrats to Australia on that. And yeah, continuing to see who's rocking into the chat. We've got Kerberos Tenchi going woo, so good to have you in here. Who else we got? Quentin Rankin, good to see you as always. We've got Andrew Moboy showing everybody what you should do if you want to get my attention, which is say my name, and it flashes up orange, as you know. You can do that to just say hello, or to make a comment that you want me to pay particular attention to, because normally I don't have time to read every single comment when I'm scanning through the comments in between stories. So do that. Um, oh, liking the love that I'm getting there from down there. By the way, if you've got a question, a topic request, or just want to say hi, or whatever, do that. Do say hi as well. Don't be a lurker. It's just nice to know who's in here. So who else we got in here? We've got Aaron. Great to see Aaron. Our moderator has made it early in the morning there. Also early in the morning for Shubus. Never fear, because Shubus is here. Great to have you in the chat there, Shubus. I'm from Panama with coffee. Wow, yeah, that's just awesome. I'm jealous every time I see that. Quinn Ranked, for us ignorant old folk, what is Midjourney? Midjourney is one of the 3 popular AI. In fact, I'd say there's probably 4 right now. You've heard of ChatGPT, where you put in text and it will create text responses for you. Midjourney is one of the popular tools that does that with images. You say, do a picture of a elephant, juggling on a unicycle. You have Stable Diffusion is one popular service that does that using AI. DALL-E is one developed by Google that does that. Midjourney is one that works in Discord, which honestly I find kind of annoying, the interface, but it produces quite nice looking art. There's another one called Leonardo AI, which I don't use, but apparently is quite good, so I'm tempted to use. But there are like 4 services right now, which will just make quite good art of anything that you like, just based on text prompts. This is actually relevant because one of the topics that I shared today that I'd like to talk about today is that the U.S. Copyright Office has actually previously given guidance that it would not allow anyone to copyright art generated by AI, because according to the U.S. Copyright Office, the art created has to have some form of meaningful human input. And they're arguing that art created by AI, even if created by a user entering a prompt, isn't sufficient human input for it to count as copyrightable material, which I think is wrong, by the way. And apparently, there's some people are suing the U.S. Copyright Office to get recognition of their AI art. And that was, they lost that case today, so they're planning to appeal. So it's an interesting area, but yeah, it's an AI service. You can look it up. Midjourney you access through Discord, but if you look up Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, -E, or Midjourney, or Leonardo AI, you can find them, and they're really cool, and they're very easy to use. So yeah, Andrew Moboy, also a fan of West Gold, good to see. Mainland butter, I actually said on the podcast as well that when it comes to New Zealand butter, what I would like to see being imported into Japan, but of course we can't have it here because we can't have nice things, and the butter production system is maintained in a failed communist system. I would like mainland butter. So yeah, well, good call out there. Slake Manson, good to see you, Slake Manson. Nice to see you there in the chat. Who else we got in here? We've got Aaron saying on the Deep in Japan podcast. So you've already got the link there. Thank you for that. Yes, indeed. Thanks for sharing. It was what was nice about that was we actually talked for just under 2.5 hours. It was a kind of a long, but pretty thorough conversation. It was about some topics I don't normally talk about, just including the world of online social media politics in Japan. What else? Just all sorts of things. But it was really fun. It turns out that the host of the podcast, very much like myself, an Oregonian, but in Japan for since the year 2000, so about the same length of time as me. And yeah, had a great chat. So again, if you like listening to my voice and you can't, you need more than the 1 hour that I provide you every week, there's 2.5 hours of me having a conversation. Actually, a really enjoyable conversation. It was a good chat. So if you like a longer form version of an already long form podcast, go check that out. And by the way, the podcast, the Deep in Japan podcast, which I myself was not familiar with until connecting with this person on Twitter about 2 weeks ago. Lots of great episodes with really interesting people. He's really good at getting interesting guests on. So it is worth actually following and subscribing and doing all that sort of stuff for Deep in Japan podcast. So yes, indeed. Sadiq Hakan Guris, good to have a man from Florida. Good to have you there in the chat. Dan H, this is a squirrel from last week. Princess Mako versus Prince Harry. Which former royal is more hated? I don't think that Princess Mako is that hated, honestly. So I would say Prince Harry just by default there. I don't like Prince Harry, honestly. It's irrational. I don't like the monarchy really more than I have anything personal against Prince Harry. I just, wish all of them, the ideal monarchy is basically that they should be as close to a pot plant as possible. So they should look nice and be there for as long as possible to not upset things and just not do anything to draw attention to themselves. And I think Harry's kind of failed at that miserably. So from my perspective, that Princess Mako, I know that she's drawn. Now wait a minute. Now I'm worried. I'm mixing up my royalty. But are you? She's the one who married Kei Komuro, right? And stopped being a royal. I believe that's right. Yeah, I think that she draws all these royal watcher trolls, but I don't think she's hated. That's my take on it, if I have that correct in my head anyway. So yeah. Andrew Mulboy, I need to open my own dairy farm somewhere in Japan. Well, they won't let me because I'm not 97 years old, and also that looks like far too much work. I just want to be able to buy the milk that I want or the butter that I want, but what can we do? So yeah, Shubhas as well. I'm with you, Shubhas, and I'm from a country where the royal family is on our money, and technically my head of state as a New Zealand citizen is the royal family. And New Zealand, it's kind of funny because Australia doesn't want to have the monarchy. It's just that they won't replace it because they can't agree on what to have to replace it. But in New Zealand, we don't even want to get rid of the monarchy. We didn't even want to be independent from UK. UK kicked us out in 1935. They passed a law kicking New Zealand out. And we were like those kids who don't leave home, even though the parents are like, moving to a new house and they don't have enough bedrooms for everyone. And the kids are, the 35-year-old kids, like, oh, it's okay, I'll just sleep in the garage. That was New Zealand and the United Kingdom. UK kicked us out in 1935, and we didn't accept it until 1947. We were like us and the Cayman Islands were like the only countries in the world that didn't accept being kicked out of home by the United Kingdom. So New Zealand's very different. That said, I'm maybe it's my half Australian streak. I'm all for getting rid of the royal family. Why would you follow them? Honestly, yeah, I really think we should replace. We should get a tree that lives for a long time, like a Californian redwood or a nice New Zealand curry tree that can live for hundreds of years, and make that the monarch. And that would be entirely successful. So yes. I could care less, of course. Well, yeah, you know what? Shubhas is kind of correct, and English is wrong on that one. So, yes, indeed, Kubrastanshi. Good to see the Sergeant Bilka, man from Sweden. Nice to see you joining here. But there we go. So, yeah, let's dive into the topics. I mean, it's been more. Thank you, Erin, for reminding me and everybody else. So definitely 18 concurrent viewers and 5 likes. Remember, I'm not monetizing this. I'm not putting the ads on this. Are not mine. I actually turned off monetization, and it's really annoying because when you turn off monetization on the video, YouTube puts a pop-up that I have to click through again, saying, "Are you sure? You realize that there'll be no money from this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure." So yeah, I'm doing that. So please, likes and peanuts accepted. Although the peanuts will just bounce off your screen and not actually arrive at me. So yeah, please do that. Yeah, Slake Manson, can't believe that New Zealand didn't vote to change its flag. I agree with you on that. Their identity seems to be having no identity. Well, we're a pretty basic country, and I mean that in terms of, I've been through this before. Our geography reflects the personality of New Zealand. We are we're the final country colonized by UK, mainly because the UK just ran out of names for places to attach to things. Of course, everywhere that the UK colonized already had, perfectly good names. But, you look at what they did. They took a country full of imaginative and wonderful sounding place names, and they renamed everything. The North Island, the South Island, the West Coast, the Eastern Coast, Northland, Southland, the Central Plateau, the Southern Alps, all the place names in New Zealand. I mean, literally, as I've said before, the most popular comic strip in New Zealand is a story about a farm dog, about a border collie sheepdog, whose name is Dog. We literally just point at things and name them what they are. We have no imagination whatsoever. And I think that the flag, I think, broke everyone's brains in New Zealand. I wish we had changed it myself, but what can you do? Konbanwa Minasan says, Mayaganot's Jason. Good to see you indeed. PB, RIP Luna 25. Well, it's not so much that Russia landed on the moon as, in Russia, the moon lands on you, and that's what happened. I mean, congratulations to the Russians, of course. They pledged that they were going to reach the lunar surface ahead of the Indian probe that is slowly descending towards the moon. And the Russians succeeded in that regard. I saw some other people calling it the special moon operation. Yeah, I don't know. They're landing. I don't like to make fun, actually, honestly. I mean, everyone's been crashing on the moon. It's surprising when you think about it, how like Japan's private mission crashed on the lunar surface. The Israelis have crashed multiple times. The Indians have crashed multiple times. You would have thought that the Russians might be a little bit better at it since they've done it before, but they crashed. It's really hard to do. It actually shows how amazing the Apollo missions were. As much as I would support anyone doing good faith space, exploration at the moment, I've trouble to think that this isn't propaganda to kind of make Russians feel good, in spite of the fact that they've just cost 500,000 lives to be lost in their pointless invasion of their neighbor. And to that end, I'm kind of glad that it failed, although, it's an unfortunate situation. But yes, indeed, PB, RIP, rest in pieces, Luna 25. We hardly knew you. Indeed. Black Tengu, our man from Greece, good to see you in there. Americans keep Hawaiian native names for the island. They kept Hawaiian native names for the island. Yeah, they did that. That was the one nice thing they did for Hawaii. I mean, they screwed it in every other possible way. New Zealand's kind of coming back. I think, there was one thing. I've been to Hawaii, and it was a little bit sad from my perspective how wiped out the indigenous culture there was. And good to see them trying to reclaim it now. But yes, indeed. Sergeant Bilka, easy takeoff, rough landing. I think rough takeoff and rough landing to be more accurate with the Russian one. But yeah, there we go. Crit Raken, yes. So they should have made the rocket shaped like a bear and allowed him to go. Didn't Stockton Rush want to head for Visa? I don't know who Stockton Rush is. I want it. I mean, not personally, even personally, actually. I still think we should be spending a lot more attention on Venus. The idea that we're going straight from Moon and then Mars, I mean, I get it that, Mars, you can land on the surface and there may or may not be, very, very boring microbial life there. But I think Venus is much easier to reach than Mars. Is a second step after the Moon. It's much better. And, in all the Star Wars episodes, Empire Strikes Back, Bespin Cloud City was like the coolest setting. I mean, I think we all want to be Lando Calrissian living on a floating platform in the clouds, which you could totally do without even the need for a pressure suit in Venus. So I would be up for that. But what can I say? We can't even land on the Moon at the moment, and if we have the problems we're having on the Moon on Venus, we're kind of screwed, given that the surface temperature is 500 degrees Celsius and can melt lead. So yeah, keep working on that. Ocean Gate, oh God, that guy. Thank you for the correction, Aaron. Now I get it. Did he want to head for Venus? Holy bad ideas, Batman. Maybe what happened was for the best. That's extremely unfortunate. Okay. I think actually, Cobra Tenchi, there were multiple Venera probes from Russia. I'm a space nerd that did land on the surface of Venus and even sent back photos. But yeah, they all melted pretty fast anyway. It's mighty hot indeed. But in the clouds, up in the high atmosphere, you actually have air pressure and temperatures that humans can handle without the need for temperature control or pressure suits. Of course, the air is pure sulfuric acid, so that's a slight problem. You'd have to figure out how to get a suit that won't melt, but other things are actually better up there, so it'd be cool to go. Anyway, into the topics, because there are 7 days worth of topics. We've been bantering for 18 minutes. But let's dive into it. So yes, indeed, congratulations, Russia, on achieving its goal of reaching the lunar surface. There's some people talking about start planning your winter vacations. In Tokyo, we've just we're currently up to, I think I retweeted this. We're currently up to on Tenki JP. There's a thing here. The number of crazy heat days above 35 degrees Celsius, I believe about like 90, that's like 98 Fahrenheit, or is it 95 Fahrenheit or something like that, but too hot anyway, getting close to body temperature. Tokyo is currently on a record streak of 21 days above that. The city of Toyota, oh, what a feeling, 33 days in crazy heat mode. Nagoya, 25 days. Fukui, 24 days. I mean, so, Osaka, 22 days. So everywhere is getting records, basically, of the most number of extreme heat days. And we're still in the middle. And we're in Tokyo this week. We're going to have apparently every day is going to be like 35 degrees is the forecast this week. So still unacceptably hot in Tokyo. And I plan to file a complaint with the appropriate authorities about that. So that is definitely a thing that's been happening here in Tokyo. But that said, it's going to be like winter and ski vacations like 2 months from now. It's hard to imagine. Some people are saying that it might actually stay super hot even through October, which is hard to imagine. September is usually where it starts getting good again, but what can we do? 81 Swordfish. What do I know about Mrs. Watanabe's housewives that control the Japanese company? I don't know what you're talking about, I'm afraid. You'll have to elaborate there. Good to see Believe in Yourself, by the way. Dan H, thoughts on Camp David talks with Japan and Korea? Again, I've tweeted something about that today. Essentially, I mean, they're wonderful, great. It's great to see the three countries getting along, as they should be boringly doing all the time. Korea and Japan shouldn't need a chaperone. They shouldn't need America as a chaperone to be able to talk to each other. Japan's kind of asking for it on purpose because, I'll see if I can find the tweet here, just basically because they don't want to be rushing back to Korea and doing as they always do, where they go and do lots of great feel-good agreements with Korea, and then it all gets tossed on the bonfire as soon as Korea changes governments. Yeah, you know, they're taking it slowly, and they're sort of making more baby steps back into agreeing on stuff again. But where was it? That's not it. Anyway, I've got a tweet about it, but I think it's good. I think it's what it should boringly normally be. But as we know here, you know, I love Korea. I love its people. I love it when Korea and Japan are getting along. When things fall apart, as they do, as much as the Korean commentators or people who see this more favorably towards the non-Japanese party in all of this will tend to say, oh, it's because Abe was such a right-winger, and it's because Japan. I mean, even I'm seeing now people saying the commentary, the BBC commentary of the Camp David talks said that this always falls apart because of, you know, ultra-nationalists in Japan upsetting it, and Koreans never accept that, you know, Japan's apologized. Japan has formally apologized 25 times more than that now, and the Korean side accepts it every time that they do it, but it's just that when the next government comes in, they say that, oh, that doesn't count now. It doesn't count because, you know, Taro Aso said something or something like that. They, you know, even this way, already opposition people are pointing out that Japan has, you know, mentioned its claim on Takeshima Island, on what Korea calls Dokdo Island, which, you know, Korea will cite as being a provocation against Korea. However, Japan, you know, has a territorial claim on the island, which, you know, it lost those islands in 1953 when Korea took them by force and then started, like, basically executing Japanese fishermen around the island. So Japan's lost lives over it, and they still believe that those islands are theirs, you know, outside of the whole colonial period in Korea. There's a disagreement, but there's a good faith disagreement. But Korea, you know, Japan maintaining its claim without actually doing anything to actually try to retake the islands or anything is taken by opportunists. And on the left in Korea is a chance to say that, you know, Japan's being provocative again, and we should break off relations. So it's definitely, from my perspective, much more on the Korean side that these things always fall apart. And some coverage has acknowledged that it's subject to Korean domestic politics, that's more of the chaos variant here. However, I've seen people say that, you know, if Korea gets a far left-wing government, which is basically any government that's not the current government in Korea got in on a split vote because there were two leftist parties that cancelled out their votes. So the number 3 conservative party got in. So if the opposition fixes itself, it's just going to lose by default in the next election, and things will go to hell with Japan. But I've seen commentators say that if it's a combination of a left-wing Japanese Korean government and a right-wing Japanese government, the Japanese government, the LDP, is always right-wing by default. I mean, you know, and the thing was, you know, and while people blamed Abe's track record, I've argued many times, is actually more liberal than many, in spite of the fact that his personal politics were conservative. The LDP under Abe was, you know, extremely liberal. So as LDP governments go, so Japan's government doesn't change. This is the thing. Things don't dramatically change on the Japan side. It's just people see what they want to see. Some people get that, some don't. Unfortunately, I agree with the camp that says that this is all doomed to fall apart. I don't think America's role in this, I don't think Biden or Trump really makes any difference, you know, in good relations between Japan and Korea. America always wants Korea and Japan to get along, because that way they'll carry some of the weight of collective defense, which, you know, America doesn't like paying. So America always wants Japan and Korea to pick up more of the tab and to support each other more. And it's always frustrated that why do these two allies of America, you know, hate each other so much? But they do, you know, and like I said, that not work, that America's intervention never made a difference before when things were going badly. I think it's working now when things are going well. But yeah, I would love things to work out, but I don't think that they will. But fingers crossed. I really sincerely hope that they do work. That's my. Sorry, yes, you asked me for my opinion on that, and it was always going to be a long answer. So yeah, Dan H, thank you for the squirrel to chase there. Good to see DJ Sunnyside up in the chat. Wow, JAXA is launching its moonlander on the 26th, PB. Yeah, indeed, there's been a couple. There's the Hokuto mission. There's been a few private missions in JAXA as well. So everyone's going back there at the moment. Everyone's aiming for the South Pole, which is where all the water is, where that being the case, we'll be able to get air, water, rocket fuel, everything at the South Pole. So everyone's rushing there to set up. And, there is the exciting prospect if they can get one of these things to land properly, that could be, where we'll have a permanent, base, a bit like the Antarctic base. It'll be on the moon within, 5 to 10 years, one hopes anyway. So, yeah, very exciting, and I hope that they succeed at that. Nice shades, says Sergeant Buko. He saw the thumbnail to the podcast, which we'll get to so good in a moment. Aaron, the food in South Korea is so good. I agree. I actually think if I was told I could only eat Japanese food or Korean food, I might pick Korean food. When I was in America, there was a Korean supermarket right near where I was staying, and I was eating like 3 or 4 times a week. The gochujang, the sweet chili paste that they use on everything, is like one of my favorite food flavorings. I'd put it into, when I was flatting in New Zealand, I would put it into all my stir fry meat and veg I'd cook. It was spectacular. So big fan of Korean food indeed. BTC Chiba, good to see you. So yeah, anyway, that's that on that various things there. This was actually a misquoted. I retweeted this without realizing that they were misquoting. This looks like it's hobbies that they do not want that they don't want in a guy that they date. That's not actually what it says. These are hobbies that women do not want to do with their boyfriends. And this is done for a TV variety show. So it's interesting, but kind of. So that's why they don't want to do marathons or triathlons, because they don't want to get dragged into doing those hobbies with a man, which I think makes more sense anyway. So there's the crazy heat days. Oh yeah, Elon is blocking. He's blocking your block. He sees your block and he blocks your block. Yeah, that's a thing that's happening. I actually was looking. I don't think of myself as someone who uses the block feature on X very much. So I had to look at my list. And I saw it was like 150 blocked accounts. I was like, when did I do that? And I went through and I realized that for a while, whenever I saw an annoying ad in my timeline, I could actually block the advertiser. So I was blocking all of these advertisers, plus anything that was like spammy, anything that was putting up like adult content or spam content or anything that looked like a scam. I'd just use block for that, and when it stopped bothering so much or it stopped coming into my curated feeds, I was fine. I've used mute sometimes when people are getting a little bit too annoying. I don't see the point in blocking people most of the time. So going through it tonight, I went through and since he's removing blocking, and I don't want to, I presume I block these for a reason. I've switched them all to mute, so at least I don't have to see them. It is kind of funny how there are some people on the internet who interpret blocking as a form of, basically trolls will react to being blocked as like it's oppressing their freedom of speech. Like these people who were blocked by the Obama Twitter account, for example, who said that the White House, isn't allowed to block, the official White House account isn't allowed to block people because it's restricting their freedom of speech. I don't think freedom of speech extends to a right to be listened to about anything. You have the right to say whatever you like. It's Billy Joel songs, you can say what's on your mind, but not on my time. Yeah, that's how I look at this. So the fact that, Elon's removing this one, it makes me realize, all the spammers and everything that we don't want to see that I'm blocking are going to come out, forgetting the fact that I'm not, typically subject to the sort of abuse that a lot of women are subject to on Twitter from trolls and so on. And that's going to be unblocked. Elon's in the category of people that at least have to worry about this and seems to be advocating for the trolls that want to force people to listen to them. Although the muting function still works. So I think that's a terrible mistake and another sign that X is coming to an end. But there again, I still value the platform. I've still, got a ton of followers there. I still enjoy it. I don't like the way it's being run, but, it's Elon's thing now, so he can do what he likes. So it's a shame, but that is a thing that is happening. Quick look at the comments. Good night, Andrea Mobile. Have a good night there. I know it's late for you, so thank you for joining, of course. Kind of a minor thing. These, I'm a big fan of keyboards, of course. I've got a fancy keyboard. And for keyboard mice, I've actually got the Logitech, the in Japan logical MX Master. I've had the MX Master, the MX Master 2, and now the MX Master 3. They're wonderful, but they have this rubber coating on them, which isn't so much. I don't think it's me having sweaty hands. I think it's the climate. just being so hot and humid in summer and dry, in winter, it just devastates the rubber coatings on things. And so this is falling apart. And it's awful because the mouse is still awesome, but it's flaking rubber all over the place now. So I Googled online for how to fix that. And it turns out there are kits that sell, for probably a little bit too much money, but like for $6 or $7, you can buy these rubber grips, which you can put on over the flaking rubber, which basically extends the life of a pretty expensive and wonderful mouse. So I've put that on, and it looks cool, and it's fixed the problem. So I'm very happy about that. So save me a couple of $100 for buying a new mouse. Sometimes you do worry about planned obsolescence. You worry if they do this on purpose. So yeah. Hey Lara, good to see you in the chat. Glad that you could join live. Yeah. As I was mentioning earlier, we've got I was on the Deep in Japan podcast this week, and the podcast came out today. I had to listen to it. It's kind of is it narcissistic to listen to a 2-hour podcast of yourself? I mean, I do wonder how it came out. It sounded good, so I was happy with it. It was a good chat. I enjoyed the chat. It was nice reliving it. So feel free to go and join that. It was a fun conversation. And feel free to look up and subscribe to the podcast. Not on YouTube, which is a thing. I actually like to follow. I like to follow everything through YouTube. So even podcasts, I kind of ask them to go onto YouTube just so I can include it in my subscriptions and follow it that way. But however, they're on all the other platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that sort of thing. And yeah, it was pretty cool to listen to. So do go and check that out. The art there's actually Marcos. He's a sort of an AI guru who got me into Midjourney, which I used for my thumbnail tonight. He made an app where I gave him a bunch of photos, and he used it to output like a whole bunch of avatar photos, of which this was one, which the podcast found and uses the avatar for that. So I thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, it's a cool looking image. So there are those shades. Yeah, it's kind of cool. So that was a thing that I did this week. So go check that out anyway if you are interested. That was fun. Black Tengu, probably acid from my fingers rotting the rubber. Well, that is the other possibility. Of course, I am an alien and I do secrete acid. So yeah, that's also a possibility. Either way, I'll put on sticky new grips on them. So good as new. And thank you for posting the link to the podcast there, Aaron. I do appreciate that. Yeah. This is I mentioned at the start of the video how I used an AI art generator called Midjourney to generate the thumbnail for the video tonight, not the normal one, because and I'm interested in what people think about this. I put in the title of the show as a prompt into an art generator, and it generated an image that I agree kind of looks a bit more Hong Kong-y than Tokyo, but it kind of looked cool. And I thought, well, why not? This is kind of a cool way to maybe throw in some variation into the thumbnails each week. So. But according to this court precedent, which was a challenge against the US Copyright Office saying that AI art cannot be copyrighted, they affirmed that. So the people suing the Copyright Office are appealing that. But theoretically, the art then, which I copied in, I would say putting my titles and everything over probably does make the image that I did copyrightable if I really cared about it. But the fact that the underlying art, which I prompted and selected, and I was sort of deliberate about at least guiding the AI onto what to generate, and saying that I can't claim a copyright in that seems a little bit strange to me, because you might use an AI art generator to create art for a business, for example, that you'd want to stop people ripping off when you commercialize it and use it, that you could use that's associated with the identity of the business and so on. I mean, that's getting into the world of trademark more than copyright, but somehow there's all sorts of legitimate use cases, and where I think there is plenty of human intervention, even when you look at the sophisticated ways that people create now prompts to generate certain types of art. So there you go. Yeah. I think believe in yourself talking about keyboards. So I see. So yeah, you're not saying it at me, so I don't want to have to read through all of the comments to figure it out. Oh, you've got a nice keyboard there. It's good to hear. Yeah, I saw that Jesse Johnson, who for the Japan Times covers North Korean missile launches, is worried that tomorrow the North Korean missile may be early. He's probably having a big Sunday night. So I put in a request. I tried to fix the situation for him by putting in a request to Chairman Kim asking if he could block out a provocative ICBM launch sometime after 10:30 a.m. in the morning or in the afternoon, but definitely not too early in the morning. Pretty sure that Kim's going to look at that. So yeah, hopefully I fix that for the Japan time so that they don't have to get up too early. Hey, Demaster, glad that you could make it. Yeah, good to see you in here. Yes, Hence that not all was well with the special moon operation earlier today, which was confirmed this evening that there was a crash. On the Korea-Japan relations and the Camp David meeting, like I said, it's rare to see. It's rare to see a take that actually understands what causes Japan-Korea relationships to periodically fall apart. That doesn't put most of the blame on Japan like BBC did in their coverage of it. So there's a good thread on it there by Robert E. Kelly that I thought, was worth sharing. A most excellent video. I think I've told you before that I love the channel Voices of the Past. They don't put a lot of stuff out there, but they did a wonderful long video, which is the diary of a kind of self-described mediocre samurai and his life. And it's sort of read in English in the first person, and it's amazing. So there's a video here. It's a long watch, but highly recommend. It's like the most entertaining thing I've watched all week, or up there with the latest episode of Foundation. Anyway, I'm enjoying watching Foundation on. It's like the only thing I'm watching at the moment on Apple TV is Foundation. So that's a thing. Oh, I've got this annoying thing. I'm sorry. I keep rubbing my nose. It's not a cocaine habit. It's got a thing where, for some reason, sometimes when I start talking, it's just like the end of my nose gets itchy and I can't stop. I have to fight through it. So I apologize for that. Totally not a drug habit. It's just sometimes I get like an itchy end of my nose. I don't know what's wrong. LK99 has been definitively proved not only to not be a room temperature superconductor, but actually a kind of an insulator. As I mentioned here, I've got a slight condition that sometimes I hear phrases or words that trigger me to remember songs or TV shows or scenes in movies. And definitely whenever I hear LK99, I think of the Prince song 1999. And I'd always hear, whenever I would hear LK99, I'd always think, tonight I'm going to party like it's LK99, which I would if it wasn't like fraudulent science. But unfortunately, it is fraudulent science. So what can we do? It's not going to work out. Same with Dean and DeLuca. I always hear my name is Luca. I live on the second floor. Especially hard because the Dean and DeLuca near my old office was on the second floor, so the lyrics still matched. I'm pretty sure Dean and DeLuca not as dark as the lyrics of that song would indicate, but that's a problem that I suffer. Believe in yourself. You have fond memories of half moon pies as a kid. Will Russia give us whole moon pies? Time will tell. Well, no, the moon has landed on Russia, I'm afraid, so that didn't work. Kustos, cool stream. Russians beat the Indians. Yes, they did beat the Indians there, at least to their goal of getting to the surface. However, given that it was an uncontrolled crash landing on the surface, I'd say that the Indians are still ahead in the bigger picture. But yes, from a short-term perspective, they did achieve their goal of beating them to reaching the surface by basically firing their lander as some sort of a projectile. It was kind of a Shaheed version. So there we go. Going to be a whole bunch of awesome rockets next year, including this New Zealand rocket, the Neutron, which is just cool. It looks like the rocket out of a Bond movie or a whale flying through space. This and the Blue Origin, New Glenn, as well as the Starship, Elon Musk Starship. I mean, they're all cool rockets, and they're going to be flying next year. So that's going to be like, next year is going to be really, really awesome for rocketry. And with these enormous rockets, just the chance that we're going to have like space stations and moon stations and everything within my lifetime, I think seems like it's really going to happen. So I'm very optimistic about that. Red Value, great to see you. It's so damn warm in Europe right now. It's damn hot here as well, everywhere. It's a thing. I mean, we've got El Nino and all that sort of stuff and heat islands, but climate change on top of that is kind of freaky how everything's like literally catching fire at the same time. Oh, which reminds me, of course, Hawaii as well. Terrible thing that happened there with that kind of fire hurricane that they had in that town. Obviously something that can happen anywhere, especially now the way things are going. So thoughts going out to them. Great to see Kurt Softy Papa in the chat. Thank you for joining as always. Dan H, as he goes an alien, I am firm in the belief that he needs to snort his diary to consume it. It's possible. It's possible. So annoying. Anyway, what else is going on here? Some Tokyo Cheap Oil links there. horrible event where a Korean DJ was groped at a Tokyo Fan event. And good to see that they're pressing charges against that. Sendai Ben, who I enjoy, who also has a great YouTube channel about financial advice for living in Japan, which if you live in Japan and you have money, you should watch. But indeed, like nobody in the whole world, Elon Musk, let's get rid of blocking. Indeed, that's how it is. Formula E coming to Tokyo, that strikes me as kind of cool. BBC doing terrible Japan coverage once again with regards to the Korean meeting there. Foundation on Friday night, I am continuing to enjoy that. So yeah, one of my favorite, and this is retweeted by somebody as a top 5 joke in the show, and I agree. I just love this quote so much. Can you show it? Come on, Homer, Japan will be fun. You liked Rashomon. That's not how I remember it. That's my Homer voice. I love that joke. I love that that scene. I pull that one out myself in conversation every now and again. Snorting dairy products. That would be quasi accurate. Dan H, you got me there. So Sendai Ben, oh, thank you, Aaron, again for posting the link. Again, things I don't really mean to share. I really try to avoid US politics, but Hurricane Hillary heading for California, and if she moves to the right, she can take Arizona and has a path to winning Nevada as well. Yeah. This is why I think it's better in Japan that we just number storms, because was somebody consciously naming a hurricane Hillary? I don't know, but yes, that was inevitable. Great to see Japanese defender getting signed for Liverpool this week. So and played yesterday and apparently did quite a good job. So that was of course good to see. Yeah, a confused editorial about, we need to do stuff about the AI from Mainichi without really understanding what AI is, I don't think, or having any real constructive idea for what we should do other than we need all the world's wisdom to curb the threat of AI weaponization. If they're talking about automation of weapons, well, that already exists. If they're talking about weapons autonomously, well, maybe, but that's not necessarily AI. I mean, they're not running on ChatGPT. Are they talking about machine learning? Are they talking about actual AI? I don't know what they're really talking about there, but there you go. Elon Musk came to Japan apparently and danced around at a concert in front of a bunch of nerds, some of whom said, "Get off the stage, old man." Who cares, honestly? I mean, like I say, if you've got that much money and you want to act like that, act how you like. I mean, geez, he's rich. What can you do? What else is going on here? The space stuff happening right now is super cool, so that's a thing. Oh yeah. I've been running in the evenings and in the mornings because it is too hot. It is body temperature heat outside during the day right now. However, I've been enjoying running, and I'm noticing I'm not going out in the sun as much. And I had more of a suntan at the end of my stay in Seattle because it was nice outside, and the sun would go down at 9 p.m. So after work, I'd go, and I could sunbathe at like 7 p.m. on the roof of my building, and I had a suntan when I got back. I mean, after 3 months of absolutely zero sunshine. But it's kind of funny, in Tokyo we have way more sunshine, but you can't go outside because it's too hot. And I was starting to feel like, I've become very sensitive to the idea of not getting enough vitamin D since being in Seattle. So I was thinking, yeah, maybe, 30-minute run, can't hurt, might just go out for a run in the heat. So I did that, and that was a terrible mistake. I planned a 7.5 kilometer run that I cut short to 5K. I stopped at the halfway mark to go to a vending machine. I just love in Japan, at least you have these vending machines everywhere, like literally every 10 meters. So you get a refrigerated half-size bottle of water, which you can drink and pour over your head and stay in the shade until you cool off. I mean, I'm pretty red in that photo. So yeah, I was definitely dangerously overheating. I saw someone else tweeting that they ran 22 kilometers the other day, which is ridiculous. That's a half marathon in this. That would not be safe. I mean, I didn't think it was safe running 5 kilometers, and I did it. So yeah, I did that. It's going to be probably about another month before we can safely like run or do exercise outside. The fact that they're playing baseball in Koshien right now, where they're having like 38 degrees and they're hotter than here. They're having the National High School Baseball Tournament. The fact that kids play baseball, play rugby, and people play rugby in the sort of weather that we have here right now is still, it happens every year, but it's fully dangerous. It's ridiculous. So I did go outside, but yeah, it's still definitely do not come to Tokyo weather at the moment. Hopefully it will improve in September, but right now it still is awful. So there you go. What else is happening here? Government needs to do more to support Japan-born foreign minors, because a lot of foreigners who have kids here in Japan, who are born here, not going to school. This is where both the parents are foreigners in particular. That's happening. Quick look back into the comments. Aaron loves the vending machines. Yes, I do as well. They really are one of the big benefits of being in Japan. Dan H, I would have thought the BBC's Japan coverage would have been a little bit better, considering Hana from Miss Hanake YouTube works in the Japanese department. Yeah, and they've got Mariko Oi as well. They have. I don't understand why it's so crappy either, but it is crappy. It's basically, yeah, it's crappy. And I follow the BBC as my default global news. I do understand there's a bit of a liberal bias to it, but I'm only well informed enough to notice it when I watch it about Japan news, and it's just always wrong, basically. And it's a shame. I wish that they'd invest more in getting good coverage of Japan, as they do it at a service, frankly. Anyone Swordfish, hi, sorry for the confusion. The video I saw on the Japanese housewives, the savings in foreign markets and controlling the world economy. They were called Mrs. Watanabe. Oh, so Japanese housewives ruling the world. I think that was true in the 1980s. I don't think it's really true very much lately. Japanese household consumption is plummeting at the moment. It's part of why the economy is going down and Japan has deflation. For a time, they definitely were that influential, but there you go. Germany's looking at legalization, and I said Germany should study Japan as a case of things to avoid, like, for example, the federal government making it illegal while states legalize it, as well as the free-for-all that I saw in Seattle. I found kind of off-putting. I thought it could be better controlled and regulated, so that I think it should be legal, by the way. I just think that you can manage it in a way that it doesn't, like, that you don't have to smell it everywhere, and you don't have to, like, force people to go bear through it, like inside apartments and stuff like that. So, my experience of it 5 months in America was I didn't think that the legalization, I felt like Seattle's kind of a case study for how, of lessons to take on things to, correct when legalizing in Germany. A lot of people got upset by that and said, what do you know? You're some sort of expert, which I'm not. These are just my opinions from going to America. But some people I thought were just, me criticizing America. I mean, America technically still outlaws it, at least at the federal level. So there you go. Water temperatures north of Japan hit 10 degrees higher than normal, which is not good. Again, Deep in Japan podcast. That was cool, and you should follow them. What happened to Real Sexy Cyborg? She was on Serpent ZA, the South African sort of Chinese expert. I actually follow his channel. He's become kind of very, very anti-government of China lately, and she featured in his big documentary he did on China. So I was interested on that, and it turns out that, yeah, she's got she's both, I believe, lesbian, and has a Uyghur girlfriend. And apparently the Chinese government sort of paid her a visit and said, do not post so much on social media anymore, just stick to limited topics. And she sort of announced that and said she's not going to post as much. And sorry, everybody. So, yeah, she's been cracked down on, which is a shame. Because, yeah, you talk about, people, when you see what's going on in Shenzhen, and she's like this amazing sort of engineer. The fact that it's got her head cut off is kind of a disservice, although she's wearing a mask there. But, she's actually a genuinely creative and interesting sort of person. She, as an engineer, yes, she's definitely promotes herself in certain obvious ways, but at the same time, she's actually, pretty articulate and interesting and creative, and is a good representative, I believe, of China for the world. But, they're not comfortable with that. So what can you do? Cobras Tenchi, the German government will do the same as always when it comes to any legislation. They will fail catastrophically for the first 5 tries and you can get it slightly right. Well, that sounds like most countries. So, yeah, Serpent said, hey, Aaron knows him. Yes, he's very anti-Chinese government. He used to be kind of like he would avoid, particularly when he was living in China, he was very careful to avoid politics. And he then criticized like Chinese manners and stuff like that. But the moment he left the country, he became very, very anti-Chinese government. Still interesting to listen to, though. Interesting guy. But yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, to have lost 1 or 2 foreign workers in their intern program may be considered a misfortune, but to lose 12,000 may be considered carelessness. To paraphrase Oscar Wilde, apparently they often run away because if they're running away from a job, they're not allowed to get new jobs under the scheme. So they have to sort of go off grid in order to get other jobs to survive in Japan. So again, the scheme is just poorly put together and desperately needs to be rethought. Chinese bots? Do you think I could get? If the bots are coming, I need to turn on monetization. I need to say more outrageous things to get the to get my click-through rate up. Apparently, Softy Papa, Hurricane Hillary, rains just began there in Huntington Beach. Well, so apparently it's turning into a tropical storm. We'll of course look out for flooding and stuff there. Do stay safe. Apparently it's like the first hurricane to ever make it to California, although I'm not sure it's still a hurricane anymore, but still, crazy times. Of course, El Nino contributing to that, but there you go. What else have we got here? Going through, I'm making good progress. 10 minutes to go, and I'm 3 days back in my timeline. Protein bars in Japan. I was definitely into the convenience store protein bars. Good on Unseen Japan for going through and rating them all. Again, I pretty much have something from Unseen Japan every week. That said, I mean, when I got kidney stones, I learned that these things are major. If you're healthy, you don't have to worry about this at all, and protein is good if you work out. But I've had to cut out. I was doing the whole trim workout thing of eating like lots of spinach and lots of cutting out my carbs and eating chicken breasts and protein bars and doing and working out. I was doing all of that. And then I discovered all of those things are the worst possible things to have if you have kidney stones. I've not had them since I got them once, and I was very dehydrated, and that was probably the biggest cause of it. But as a result, I've completely reversed on I do not eat these anymore. But that said, Japan has lots of really good, affordable options. So if you're interested in that, go check out Unseen Japan. This was just a story that a British museum worker sacked over missing treasures. I mean, again, the whole premise of the British Museum that they had an empire, and a bit like Indiana Jones, they'd walk around the world to all the countries that they colonized and took over, and look at all the art and culture and history and say that belongs in a museum, and they would steal it and take it back to the UK. Things like the Benin bronzes from Africa, how they were mounted in a specific sort of historical sequential way, and they just sort of randomly disordered them and put them, handed them out to some friends and took them back to Britain. And Nigeria has been trying to get them back. And the British have always said, no, if we give them back to you, you won't look after them properly. And the whole argument that, that they make to justify their post-colonial existence, which is just completely wrong, that we should keep all the stolen stuff that we took from you because, you're not civilized enough to look after it. And they can't even do that. They actually, mishandle, and it turns out workers at the museum are like selling stuff in storage from the back rooms. I mean, so there you go. Quinn Rangat asks, what am I eating? Actually, that's a whole thing I could talk about a little bit. I haven't gone cold turkey on, when you look at the list, basically if you have kidney stones, I never want to get them ever again. So I went totally paranoid. The things that I did and that I am doing to try to make sure I never get in that situation ever again. Foods that have things called oxalates, OXALATES, are things that contribute to kidney stones. And apparently a good way to mitigate, you can't go zero on oxalates. Just about everything contains them. Things that contain them the most are things like spinach and raspberries and liver, internal organs. Food that's high on protein contains it. So, sugar, salts. So pretty much there's almost nothing that you can do to get away from it, but you can sort of go in low portions on things like, for a while I avoided spinach entirely. I can have it in low volumes now, and if you have it with milk, counterintuitively, calcium in milk is actually good for flushing it out. So I'm very careful about not overdoing protein. I'm most careful of all to make sure I'm drinking at least 2 liters of water a day, 2 to 3 liters of water a day. If I'm exercising, even more than that. I was actually told by a doctor, if you drink enough water so that you're peeing 5 times a day, that's enough water. That's enough to keep flushing through the kidneys. Not being dehydrated is one of the biggest causes. But yeah, it meant that all the stuff I was doing from a fitness perspective, I kind of stopped. I've gone cold turkey. I'm eating much less meat now than I was eating before, but taking in much less protein. I've stopped protein bars altogether. I've stopped spinach altogether that I was having every day pretty much. And I'm still just as healthy, actually, and my weight is still just the same. So it turns out I didn't need it all to begin with. But I've also learned that, and I was told by my doctor here, drink lots of water, do things in moderation, don't go cold turkey on foods, just be moderate and conscious and aware. And I've been doing that, and it's worked. Peanuts and nuts are bad. I I can't stop peanut butter. So I've been having a much more thin spread of peanut butter, and only once or twice a week. I still do that. But yeah, I'm just very, spinach is just something you have to avoid. So yeah, I love peanuts as well, Shubha. So that part of it's killing me. But yeah, remember, too much calcium will remove magnesium your body and cause hair loss. Well, never mind that. Thank you, Cobra Tenshi. So yeah, I'm eating lots of leafy salads. My leafy green is lettuce. I drink and cabbage, of course. So I'm still having lots of salads and stuff like that. Plus, it's just my getting into middle age. You just have to eat less and eat healthier anyway, and I'm doing that. So I'm right on target in terms of, and indeed, Black Tango, you've got it right there. Eat cheese and yogurt to neutralize oxalates. So exactly, I'm having a lot of yogurt, not the high protein yogurt, just regular yogurt, but I love Greek yogurt. And I'm actually conscious that it's actually good. If I have a hamburger with lots of protein in it, I'll get a cheeseburger and have some cheese with it. It's a justification for extra dairy. So you can never see, dairy makes everything better if you're having something with oxalate. So I've had a crash course in that just because I don't want to go through it again. Butter is good. Butter is good. I put butter on bread when I have bread, and I do have bread quite regularly, and I've got a stick of butter always in the fridge for that. So the Sergeant Bilko, again, you could argue it's a medical necessity for me that we need free butter imports into Japan, which we don't have. So there we go. What else is going on here? Oh, this. We talked about this on the podcast. So I actually did this on the podcast. So if you want to hear my full take on this, I'll save it here and go and watch the podcast that I did on Deep in Japan. But Gaijin Mummy, which, by the way, if you're on Twitter, she has the most amazing account. She posts like amazing photos and animated videos and stuff every day. And she created this. And it's incredible. This is the Gaijin Sugoroku for people who live in Japan. Does this apply to you? How many of these apply to you? And they're pretty good. It's a great list. So I both answered every box on here as well as gave my critique of it. So go check that out on the podcast. But this was great. She does bingo lists as well, of course. This got my attention. An elderly Akita resident was apparently worried that with a typhoon coming, he's worried about his rice field, so he went to go and check it, where he was attacked by a bear. So I guess we're going to get Bearnado, and that's got to be a movie, right? He should definitely sell the rights to that. What else is going on here this week? Checking out to see how American democracy is doing. Commiserations. Sorry, it's going so bad. I'm going to stick to looking at Japanese politics. So what can you do? Racing through towards the end of the week. Support for the cabinet's the lowest that it's ever been. Suzuki Munio is, as usual, a corrupt person, which I talked about last week. And that's it. There's the thing from last week. And look at that. We're 2 minutes away from the end of the show. So we actually got here ahead of time. Bearfoon. I like that. Cobra Tenshi. Bearfoon. There's your movie title. You're welcome. I'll just take 10% of the royalties. So anyway, that's the show for this week. It's great to see so many people joining. If you did like this, do remember to like it. Remember, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on X or Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now. I'm still there until there's something better. But anyone swordfish, olive oil is also good. Yes, indeed. I've been reading all this stuff, and without trying to go too overboard, I'm trying to be sensible about it. So I've been doing that indeed. Danny, good to see Danny is in here. We should all count our peeings. It's apparently, well, if you're not peeing, you should be counting, because that was something I just wasn't drinking water. I was forgetting to drink. And drinking water is, if you get kidney problems, like real kidney problems, which I don't have, but if what I get worsens into that, then you actually, I know someone who's had a kidney transplant who was telling me they have to drink like 8 liters a day. They have to drink 4 liters in the morning before lunch, which is miserable. So no, you're definitely better off paying attention so that you don't end up in that sort of a situation. But that said, that's a weird way to end the show. But thanks again, everyone who's joining. Do thank you for the likes and keeping me company. I'll be back here at the same time next week. I'll be on Twitter throughout the week. Stay cool if you are in anywhere that's warm, which is pretty much anywhere in the northern hemisphere right now. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, do rug up. I know it's going to get better soon. The weather will get better hopefully in the next couple of weeks, although it's still going to be hot here for the next week. So yeah, don't be like me. Don't go out running in the middle of the day. I'm going to keep doing my runs in the early morning and at night. But yeah, have a good week, everybody. Do stay safe. Hopefully, see you all again next week. And boom, peace. Have a good one, everyone. I should get music back into the show. I know that the Sergeant Booker like that, and I need to get my setup hooked back for that. So I might do that. Yeah, I should look at that. That'll be the next call, especially now I'm getting these on time. So yeah, good to see you, Lara. Good to see you, Kuris Tenshi, Quint Ranked, everybody. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you later. Boom. Ending stream. No, extra click. Ending stream now.